What's Super looking for? He hungry? And he trying to carve up some ham?
Hey, it's Hex from the Overwatch League. We have a very special edition of In My Sights today. You know we had to do it. It's going to be Super of the San Francisco Shock, their main tank extraordinaire, their Reinhardt specialist. Well, he's going to play Genji today. And why not? Matthew DeLisi, big brain, can play everything. And it wasn't a huge surprise. He's been kind of grinding it out, and Shock, well, they're known to take chances against teams that they think they should beat, and Boston Uprising fits that bill. So Super does a lot of things well, and a lot of things maybe that it could get coached up on. But on Genji, you want to have that ninja patience. Super does that very well. Always be mindful in your ultimate if you can get a dash reset. If you can't get dash resets with your ults, not great, and if you can end up getting a 5k, and that leads to getting blade value. Here's that patience I was talking about, though. One of the things I see from newer Genji players, especially, is going in and using your whole kit. Right there, Super dashes in, but he knows to back up. He's kind of just going to trail on Smurf this whole game. Backs up, uses the shield, doesn't have to use deflect. It's a small thing, but now he's got that ability up, especially since the other team's running a Reaper, really important. Smurf goes down early here. Super tries to find an angle, but now Striker is out of the fight. Just kind of a rough start. Shock it in here, and maybe Super could have gotten a little more aggressive on some of this stuff, but losing Smurf early, Smurf is kind of the engine that makes this team go in this composition, and that one just hurt. San Francisco loses that very first fight, and now they're going to be on second point defense. But Super does some things that are nice here. I think a lot of people were surprised that it wasn't terrible. It was actually quite good in a lot of instances. It's not perfect, but Super does a good job of staying in his role, knowing what to do, and just allowing his team, which is comprised of 5 other all-stars, to do their job. So this is where we see Genji's hang out on this point. If you remember the Decay video, I'm going to reference that a bit in a second as well. Just trying to get poke damage until you get your ultimate. You're never going to win the shield crack war running a Winston. Everyone gets in there, and now the rally's in there. Just dash resets, comes through, gets all the damage he needs. And again, a patient-ish play by Super. Doesn't blow his blade there. Bye, Jerry. And that's better than a tactical crouch, in my opinion. Gives him the old Dikembe Mutombo finger wag. No. Trust me, it's an old reference, but it checks out. Alright, so now, this is the thing we talked about in the Decay video, on the exact same map, on the same hero. Decay, when he has ultimate, he does not try to poke in. He holds it. And it's because he does not want to give the healers any sort of quick acceleration to get to their ultimates, which could mess up a Genji ult. Super, maybe he's trying to shield crack, maybe this is just muscle memory, but it's something that you could think about. Maybe not spamming in here. Because Jerry takes a volley, and now Myungbong is going to get his ultimate, and that allows Halo to get his ultimate, and that means it's going to be much more difficult for Super to get value out of his blade. It would have happened anyway, but it just happens quicker. Super, waiting. Alright, thinks he's got a target here. That is not what you want. Also, Punk did end up getting the sound barrier, which came up during that fight. Super, I believe, hit the pillar. He was going for the big, flashy, mid-air Dragon Blade onto the ulting Sigma. It doesn't happen, and Jerry's just got too much throughput on the ground. One thing about Super's blades is he goes for big targets and doesn't get resets often. And you saw in the aftermath of that what happens when you don't get the reset. You're kind of just on the ground. You need that dash for the mobility. Genji's all about the mobility. So then he ends up on the ground just kind of waving his pool noodle at the other team as they just retreat and laugh at him. So some of the target acquisition for the blades has not been ideal for Super, but he does play a very basic mechanic Genji okay on the ground. Like I said, he's taking the right angles. He knows where to play and how to play around his team. He's saving dashes. He's saving some abilities, so it's been okay. All right, switching to the offense now. One of the things you do end up having to do when you're playing damage dealers sometimes in these rollouts, and Control you see it a lot, is play Symmetra and be able to place these teleporters correctly and not do this. Not walk in front of the shield and eat dynamite and almost die. Super. 9 HP. He lives. He'd probably tell you it's calculated, but it's not like they healed him up or anything, so Yeah, a little bit of a blunder there, but it's something that you have to kind of learn. Damage Dealer is always responsible for setting up that teleporter, and he will learn from it. This is exactly where Genji wants to be. Him and Smurf just going for it. This is something that maybe Genji would stay out there a little longer. Trust your healers at 145. I don't know if you need to be following Big Pack, especially when your Winston is still in. Maybe could have gotten down on that Sigma, which is funny because it seems like Super just has Punk in his sights all game. But this is good. Goes to the back rotation, and now Smurf is just going to flush everyone towards Super. Super's going to take advantage of it. Dash resets easy. I mean, if we were taking this more seriously, we would have done Smurf. We should probably still do Smurf at some point in time. Smurf had himself a great game. That's it. That's first point. So it's just a small thing. You know, Super... He said he wasn't nervous. However, I mean, going for a giant pack of 145, then trying to engage again, Gotta be a little careful over here in these sections. This time he comes back for healing. Super has got main tank in him, of course, so he is in first. Has to be careful there, because a headshot and a volley from the Genji, who's also up top, could have just ruined it. But they're setting up for a dive up top. Smurf's trying to go around the other side, and Super's going to come in over here. But for whatever reason, either Smurf decides to not go all the way up top, or he gets knocked down. They just end up playing on the ground. And these rallies have been winning San Francisco fights. Super does a good job of getting all the armor, and then going up here, try to mess with whoever's sitting on high ground. That happens to be Punk. And Genji gets stunned by a skill shot. Wakes up. Still gets Punk with the blade. That's going to be it. Color Hex can't get out of spawn with his own blade. Super does a good job of being one of the only heroes to be able to get back up there and deal with the high ground threat, or at least negate them, and let the rest of his team win the 5v5 on point if that ends up being the scenario. He's in a good position, busts out Blade, because why not at that point in time? Ends up getting a kill. I don't think this was his best Genji map. I think maybe he played better on Route 66, as the set went on. But I think there's a lot of small teachable moments here, as I don't think Super would tell you he's the best Genji. Well, Super might tell you he's the best Genji in the league. I don't think anyone believes Super is the best Genji in the league, but for someone who's played main tank for most of their career, except way back when him and his team were so good that there was times where he would just mess around on Tracer and the rest of his team. That was before Overwatch League, way back in history. But he's playing around his team. He's not overcommitting. And there's some stuff that he could learn here, blade-wise, mechanics-wise. But for the most part, it's not been a liability. And I think that's what his style of play is I'm going to be in the spots you need, I'll have dash ready, maybe my blade will do something, but it's not going to be a 5v6 for you guys. And Genji's still a hero that you have to account for. He's putting in a lot of damage, his numbers actually looked pretty good, but when a match is this one-sided, everyone's numbers are going to look good. Alright, so this is the Genji spot, up here, spam in. Hold right side, make sure the other Genji can't get in there. Nice dash through there, gets Punk, and now he is behind everybody. Boston takes some weird rotations. They're forced into strange rotations a lot of the time. That's what San Francisco will do to teams. And now Boston is on the backside here. Trying to get this Lucio, but you don't have to chase things down when Striker's on your team. Gets to the point, doesn't overextend. Punk is off of Sigma because it has not been a fun game for him, and they open on Coalescence on Super just to try to get some pressure onto the point. It's a nice reaction time there to use the deflect onto the Reaper. Sends him running for the hills. So here's a Blade where he kind of gets booped out of it, but his initial target selection was the Reinhardt, who had a lot of health, so you're just not going to get a dash reset there. And you need a kill on Blade to get a dash reset, to get another kill, to get a dash reset. Like, it's a great snowball mechanic when it works out. But the fact that he dashes away from the other team means that he doesn't get the kill, and then he's out of position to try to get back in there. Jerry just gets hunted down by the flankers here. Going for this late damage, but doesn't stay too long. Gets behind shields. And right now, Uprising have a ton of ultimates. Should be their fight. They open with Cole again. Coalescence, sorry. But all of San Francisco just hangs out with Twilight and sits in the Transcendence. The rest of Uprising go to the point and they just leave Fusions left for dead. I mean, it was overtime. Someone has to get there, but maybe not everybody. And now, odd number situation. Super uses the mobility pretty well. Able to take down that Lucio, and why not grab the Blade out because it should be the last fight for you. Clean up Blade right there. And it's a pretty good Blade. Gets Jerry, who's trying to ultimate. San Francisco, full hold. So I think if you're coming into this situation where you don't play Genji, but you need a Genji on your team, trying to play as mistake-free as possible is fine. And I think maybe that's where some of the passive stuff comes from, because Genji's such a living on the edge kind of hero. So rather than dashing into the opposing team to try to get dash resets in a 4K, Super just tries to isolate a Reinhardt, maybe get the 1K, and if that doesn't work out, look, I'm playing with 5 All-Stars on my team. I don't need to do everything. So it's about knowing your strengths and weaknesses, and I think Super is actually really intelligent when it comes to that as far as playing his Genji goes. He does not try to do too much. Trying to do too much on a hero you're not 100% comfortable on will lead to losses. So yeah, there's some Blades that are memes. Almost dying to the Dynamite, I think, was actually the biggest sin he had, but he was out spawn anyway. He's been pretty patient. He's not trying to force it. Except maybe the kill onto the ulting Sigma. That's just going for an all-star play. Okay, back on the sim. Remember what happened last time. Get your angle and back up. Although luckily the Uprising is not playing an Ashe this time and there is no Dynamite for Super to step into, but he's back. Gets out. Yeah, learning from mistakes. You see how much the flankers have been a problem for Boston Uprising? Punk is on Roadhog. And that's not just to deal with Super, it's to deal with Smurf, it's to deal with Striker. Super gets up top. This time he finds his healers again, but now can't find the Genji in the trees. But instead of going to pack, gets heals from his healers. So you see him just learning on the fly. Fusions jumps in, all of San Francisco turns around and deals with him. Hog doesn't get anything done. Deflect comes up, and Striker's there to close it out. Color Hex will get Twilight. Color Hex will get sent back to spawn. And one more for good measure. Oh, no, no, no. Not in my house, says Super. And that's Super's Genji by special request. A main tank playing one of the most mechanically intensive damage dealers in the game. But Super was patient. Kinda needs to work on getting dash resets during the Blades to get the Blade value, but he had his dashes up when this team needed it. He didn't feed, and that's kind of all you want when you're playing with a group as good as the San Francisco Shock. You just have to not make mistakes. So Super, able to adapt. Maybe next time we'll do Super Symmetra.